Hey everyone, Sarah here, and today we are going to answer the question, what would happen in like 1923 if someone didn't hang up their phone? Now, those of you who have used landlines, which I know is a dwindling number of people, will probably recognize the receiver off-hook tone that we use in the United States. Sounds like this. And that tone has been around forever, and that is somewhat unsurprisingly just there to let you, the user, know that you have left a phone off hook and that because of that, you can't get any calls and you may be tying up central office equipment. Now, in a digital central office, it doesn't really matter if you leave a phone off hook, but in an electromechanical central office, it does. So let's go back in time to 1923, talking about this panel office, and we will find out what happens when you leave that your phone off the hook. So the first thing to know is that each telephone call in the panel switch takes up a certain amount of resources. There are resources taken up by the actual selectors that are moving up and down to connect your call, and while you're off hook in the dialing state, you are taking up a sender. Now, the sender is sort of like the brain of an operator who is giving you dial tone, registering and storing the digits that you dial, and then performing a translation to then drive those selector rods where they have to go. As long as you're off hook and you haven't dialed yet, you are taking up a sender. And the number of senders in a central office, like a panel office, is somewhat limited. There's going to be enough to handle a normal day's traffic, but there's not necessarily an infinite number of them. So it's in everybody's best interest if you don't leave your phone off the hook, and when you do take your phone off the hook, that you begin dialing as soon as possible and finish dialing in a timely fashion. When you pick up your telephone, you are assigned to a sender. That light right there means that we got sender C, and sender C is giving us dial tone and expecting us to dial. Now, as long as we're sitting here, like I said a minute ago, we're using that sender and nobody else can. Now, in the museum, we have only 6 senders, which is essentially nothing. But in real life, this switch had about 72, and a large switch in like a downtown area would have hundreds. So what the sender's doing right now is it's timing for me to start dialing, for me to essentially say something. And eventually, it's going to time out. Usually it takes between 30 and 45 seconds. It's not completely an exact science, but any moment now, the sender will essentially give up on me. And there it is. So what happened is the sender realized that I wasn't going to dial, and it gave up and directed me to something called a permanent signal trunk. Now, permanent signal is an American telephone term, and it comes from the days of manual operators when you lifting up your phone would light a signal lamp at the switchboard. And if the signal lamp was lit permanently, it meant that you had gone off hook and never hung up your phone, hence permanent signal. In the UK, they call it permanent glow for a similar reason, because you lift up your phone, the lamp at the operator's switchboard glows, and it glows permanently. It never goes away because you've left your phone off the hook. So we are now connected to a permanent signal trunk, and I presently hear nothing. But right behind me here is the trouble desk, or OGT desk. And this desk has many functions. I've talked about it in earlier videos. But one of the particular functions it has is dealing with permanent signals. Now, if you look right around there, you should see a flashing white light. That's telling the desk person that at least one phone has gone permanent signal on such and such a location. And if we were to leave more phones off hook, more of these lamps would glow. So what I can do now is bring you over here, and we can pretend I'm a desk operator or a desk switchman. And what I'm going to do once I see that permanent signal lamp lit up there is I'm going to take my permanent signal cord and plug it into the jack that corresponds with that lamp. Then I'm going to take my the key that's associated with that and move it to the talk position. And now I can try to address the subscriber and say, hey, put your phone on the hook. Do you need any help? Actually, they'd be much more polite than that, and I know this because I have the script and I have the list of steps they have to take. So they were supposed to be very polite. If the subscriber doesn't hang up or doesn't answer after I'm talking to them, the next thing I'm going to do is apply a specific tone to the line that's a little bit annoying, with the hope that it will get them to hang up the phone. And the way I do that is I take the same key that I flipped here, flip it back the other way, and this red light starts flashing. The flashing light tells us that the tone is being applied, and now we just wait. Now, the tone that's being applied is a little bit different from the receiver off-hook tone that we know of today, at least in the States. This tone came from the ringing machine, and internally it's known as high tone. It's about 480 hertz. And what I'm doing here with this cord and with the flashing red light and all that business is I'm applying that tone. And when it's applied in this particular fashion, it's known as a graduated howler. Howler because I guess they thought it howls at you, and graduated because it steadily increases in volume over and over and over again until it annoys the subscriber into hanging up their phone. So we'll see if we can show you what it sounds like. And now that it's been applied to the line for a while, one of two things is going to happen. Either the caller is going to hang up, or they won't hang up because they don't care, or there is some other technical reason why they cannot hang up. If the caller hangs up, that flashing red light will just go solid. And that tells the desk switchman that the problem has been resolved and that he can go ahead and drop that cord down because we don't care anymore. In the other case, if they did not hang up and we are applying the howler to the line and it's just the situation's not improving, here's what I do. I write up a trouble ticket and I refer this out to an operator or to repair service. And in order that the white light up there stops, flashing in my face, I take this plug that plugs the jack, and it leaves just a little tiny hole through which you can see that white light. Check it out. So now I've referred this out to an operator or to someone else to deal with. It's no longer my problem. I move on to other things. And then this just covers up that flashing light to let me know that this one in particular has been dealt with. So in these early systems, like the panel and early step, it was still a very manual process. And it kind of could be, because this desk was likely going to be staffed almost all of the time, especially when the system was brand new. Later on, as new systems came out, they eventually moved this responsibility away from the trouble desk and to a special operator whose job it was just to monitor for these exact kinds of things. So rather than answering phone calls and routing calls, her job would just be to monitor for inconsistencies in the switching machine itself. In later systems, like the number 5, the tone is actually applied mostly automatically, although I can still do it by hand. So now we're standing in the number 5 crossbar, which is substantially newer than the panel. We were just in 1923, and now we're in 1958, 1960s. And these 3 frames right here, 1, 2, and 3, are exactly the same as the treble desk in the panel. The circuits have been modernized. It's now no longer a wooden desk, they're upright frames. But these 3 are the same thing as the panel desk. Interestingly, just mirrored. So that should be over here and this should be over there, but same thing. Since this machine was designed not to be staffed all the time, one of the things they did here was make a lot more of its functions automated, which makes sense because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to pay a person to sit here and stare at these lights when the machine is mostly capable of taking care of itself. So if I take a line off hook, you can see we've got an originating register and it's expecting us to dial, but we're not going to dial, we're just going to wait. And while we wait, the register is going to time for some amount of time. Usually it's like 20 to 30 seconds. Timed out, and now we got a trouble card. This trouble card has on it the location of the line that is now gone permanent, and it also tells me that it has indeed gone permanent, and I can look at this and go, all right, I will go find that line. In the meantime, it's connected me to a permanent signal trunk, which is playing a very quiet announcement at me. This is because our announcement machine's worn out. Oh, here we go. The announcement has timed out, and now it's playing the automated howler. That is called receiver off hook tone. Now, it's going to play that for a while, hoping that I eventually hang up, and I'm not going to hang up. And after it gives up on that, it's going to sound an alarm and light that lamp here. There we go. So the permanent signal was not addressed, the caller didn't hang up, and now it's become my problem because I've asked it to do this. And it lights a lamp here, telling me that there's a permanent signal. These are all my permanent signal trunks. And it's ringing the minor alarm. So what I'm going to do is tell the alarm to be quiet. And now I can take this cord, plug into that permanent signal trunk, and using this voltmeter, and using this voltmeter, I can run some tests on the line. Yep, there's a phone there. I can talk on the line as well and yell at the person, or I can manually reapply the howler, hoping that maybe if they haven't gotten off the phone already, they will. In reality, more often than not, some people just leave their phone off the hook. Maybe they don't want to be bothered. Maybe they're going to bed. Maybe the dog knocked it off the table and now it's going to be like that until they get home from running errands or whatever. So there's a ton of legitimate reasons why people would just not hang up their phone. So I've seen videos of old crossbar offices and stuff, and these lights are all just flashing because there's several, out of the 10,000 phones in the office, there's several permanent signals happening basically all the time because you'll never get everyone to hang up their phone. The one thing that could be an indicator of a greater problem is if a cable was cut out in the field somewhere. So there's these big giant cables that are leaving the central office and going to everybody's phones in the various neighborhoods and stuff. And if someone with an excavator digs up one of those cables, well, all those copper pairs inside that cable are all going to get shorted together because of the big backhoe or excavator digging it up. And when all those copper pairs get shorted together, it looks to the machine like a whole bunch of phones have just gone off hook all at once. And usually the first indication of a cable cut in these types of offices would be if all of the permanent signal trunks were just suddenly used up completely and trouble cards were dropping left and right. That would kind of indicate maybe something else is going on, not just someone left their phone off the hook. I hope you learned something. I just got that permanent signal thing, the howler in the panel working, so I'm pretty excited about that. I figured I'd just talk about it for a few minutes. And I've got more stuff coming soon, so until next time.